All right, yeah, they're almost here. All right, welcome back. Just knock a few muffin crumbs out of my beard. Hopefully they won't be there annoying you from a distance. We have some very special guests here today. I mean very special guests. And I'm not talking about our next speaker, I'll get to that. But all the way from South Australia, from Sudan in the mid-Murray, we have representatives from Cambrai. Now, don't do anything yet. Cambrai Primary School. We got Mahalia, Darren, Felicity, Sarah and Preston, Mr. Chris, Miss Layla. So, Cambrai, can everyone say Cambrai? Okay, this is what we're going to do. I want you to follow me. And similar to what we did last night for our Landcare, as I get closer, raise your ooh, okay? So I'm going to start way over here, and then I want you to just go ooh, okay? And then follow me until I get to Cambrai, and then when I get there and jump in the air, go Cambrai as loud as 650 of you can do to generate the Landcare love for these junior Landcarers, and they've all got their junior Landcare hats on, okay? You ready? Don't go too fast. Ooh, bit louder. Ooh, 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 ooh. Lift it, lift it, lift it. Oh, hold it, hold it. Oh, oh, oh. Cambrai! Welcome, Cambrai! How special to have Mahalia, Darren, Felicity, Sarah and Preston here. Big welcome to you. So awesome to have you. And you know, what a treat. From junior Landcarers to a minister of the Commonwealth. Like, let's give a bit of spectrum here. Let's open that lens and really throw it wide. Because I'm delighted to say that we have with us our next special guest speaker, the Honorary Julie Collins, Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry. But to introduce Minister Collins, please welcome Doug Human, Chair of Landcare Australia, to introduce Julie. Ah, that warmed me up, Doug. Yay, Cambrai.
Thank you, Costa, and thank you, everyone. What a fantastic start to the morning it was with that panel. What a treat, and more to come. I've just indicated to the Minister what we've been doing in the last few days, and putting a little bit of focus on a few things which I discussed in more detail with Minister Watt's introduction, so I won't repeat those. But in thanking the Australian Government's Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry for their ongoing support through the Natural Heritage Trust to Landcare, we acknowledge that your ministry and your partnership enables us to deliver an event of this scale and this quality. I've described to the Minister that we've over 650 people in the room. She'll be back with us tonight as we sparkle up and enjoy the evening with us, as well as joining us this morning. So thank you, Minister. Welcome to you and to the DAF team, and thank you for your support for Landcare Australia in putting this event together. The Honourable Julie Collins is here with us and reflects the value that the government places on Landcare's contribution to agriculture, natural resource management and community resilience. And your commitment, Minister, as with Murray Watt's before us in your portfolio and before you today is vital to our shared mission, which I've been describing to you. This year's theme, Landcare, nature, agriculture, land, and people positive. I was looking there and all I saw was my name. This theme is a collaboration between agriculture and the environmental sectors and is at the heart of Landcare. We have been talking about when we get that partnership right, we can deliver fantastic positive practices and sustainable outcomes on farm and on ground. We should not forget, and I will mention it, and the Minister will mention it as well, that the National Landcare movement did emerge, as Joe is reflecting as well, from both farmers and conservationists working side by side on environmental challenges, symbolised from my home state in Victoria through legendary Labor figure of Joan Kooma, a mentor of mine, and I've heard the ministers as well, and farming advocate and other people in the room, and farming advocate Heather Mitchell. This shared approach, as we know, was the founding platform for the National Landcare community when the NFF and ACF took the proposition to the Prime Minister Hawke 35 years ago. Those first Labor seeds sowed the seeds of a national movement that we have represented here today by the 650 of you for the thousands of Landcarers across the country. So over the last 3 decades, Landcare has achieved a tremendous amount with landscapes restored, biodiversity protected and communities strengthened. There is much more work ahead, and in the face of a changing climate, the growing impacts of drought, bushfire, devastating floods, the role of Landcare as farmers and producers has never been more important. This National Landcare Conference gives us the chance to connect, learn and collaborate, Minister, and that's what we have been doing. In welcoming you, Minister, to this area, which I understand you know well, and as a proud Tasmanian, we reflect on the momentum and shared purpose in this room. Over the past 2 days, we've heard from landholders, traditional owners, volunteers, scientists, and community leaders, all working together to care for country, and I'll use the phrase that Joe used when he equated caring for country to Landcare. We urge you, Minister, to draw strength from this collective voice, to continue championing reforms that enable practical, place-based action, reforms that invest in people on the ground, in farmers, in First Nations communities and local Landcare groups who are ready and willing to lead the way in restoring landscapes at scale, protecting biodiversity and building resilience in the face of a changing climate. It is my pleasure to welcome you, Minister Julie Collins, Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, a proud Tasmanian with a deep understanding of regional communities and a strong commitment to sustainable agriculture and rural resilience. From drought and disaster recovery to stewardship, support and workforce development, Minister Collins does bring a grounded, practical approach to policy, years of experience in the Cabinet and one that recognises the value of partnerships, the role of community and the importance of long-term investment in our natural systems. Please join me in giving Minister Collins a warm Landcare welcome.
Well, what a welcome. Thank you so much, Doug. If I can thank you and the Landcare Australia Board and the staff, and I also want to thank Costa for his very energetic welcome back from morning tea. I noticed Costa did go and have some morning tea and refuel, which does give me some encouragement to be that energetic. It does create a fair bit of fuel that is required. But I want to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners on whose land we meet today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I also want to acknowledge the incredible work that Landcare volunteers, that's all of you who are in this room today, do out on the land. You are the heroes of this incredible movement. At this event, it is a great opportunity to recognise and support the important role that volunteers play in the Landcare movement. As we heard from Doug, and as many of you in the room would know, Landcare started in regional Victoria in 1986. It was the then Farmers Federation and the Australian Conservation Foundation who came together to work with the then Hawke Labor government to implement Landcare nationally in 1989. To this day, Landcare remains a proud Labor legacy. Over the past 30 years, it has evolved to become one of the largest volunteer movements in Australia, with more than 6,000 community groups and with more than 160,000 volunteers on the ground. Our government recognises and supports the significant role that Landcare plays in the sustainable management of Australia's unique resources. The Natural Heritage Trust supports Landcare Australia and the National Landcare Network with $14.5 million to help manage Australia's natural resources and to promote the uptake of sustainable agricultural practices and environmental protection. This is a key part of what the government's commitment is to natural resource management, sustainable agriculture and environmental protection. And it of course supports regional communities and the Landcare movement. As the Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, I also acknowledge the vital role that the movement plays in supporting the productivity and the profitability of the agriculture sector that I have the great privilege of representing. The practical sustainability outcomes that your incredible movement achieves in these industries is something we should all be very proud of, and it's something that can inspire us. To quote Bob Hawke's 1989 speech in launching Landcare, he said, "The degradation of our environment is not simply a local problem, nor a problem for one state or another, nor for the Commonwealth alone. It is a problem for all of us, individually and together. And the solution to this problem is found through cooperation." I've seen this incredible cooperation in action as Minister and over many years in communities across my own electorate in Tasmania. Sustainable, climate-smart practices, just like those that have been fostered by Landcare over almost 30 years, are central to Australia's agenda on agriculture and key to the success of the sector. Last week, our government released Australia's first National Climate Risk Assessment and the Adaptation Plan. The risk assessment clearly laid out that the increased cross-sector risks in the future, including the declining ecosystem health, the impacts to our water security, and the impact on agricultural production. However, what we know, and was acknowledged all the way back in 1989, is that those of you who look after the land are already global leaders in adaptation and in resilience. And the continued collaboration of all of us in this room will be key to mitigating the effects of the changing environment. Agriculture accounts for over half of Australia's land use. So the sustainable management of this land is an important issue for both farm businesses, but for the nation as a whole. It benefits all of us. ABARES recently projected the 2025-26 forecast for agriculture, fisheries and forestry production would reach over $100 billion, the largest on record. This milestone is a credit to the hard work, the resilience and the skill of our farmers and those managing the land, ensuring our landscapes and our farmland remain sustainable and viable into the long term. The continued growth in our agriculture, fisheries and forestry sectors is good for our farmers. It's also good for our regional economies, and it's great for our trade relationships. But the future productivity of the agriculture sector will rely on the health of our farmland and preservation of our natural capital. And we've already seen great progress on this front. The agriculture sector is setting ambitious emissions reduction and environmental goals and adapting to the impacts of climate change whilst maintaining profitability and supporting food security at home and abroad. Australian farmers are world leaders in sustainable practices, using less fertiliser, producing more food with fewer emissions than almost anywhere in the world. Australia has comparatively low on-farm emissions. A basket of agricultural goods in Australia produces 42% less emissions than in the United States, 29% less than in the EU, and 12% less than in New Zealand. Whilst this success is something we should be rightly proud of, our government understands that we cannot afford to stand still. To meet net zero by 2050, there needs to be significant efforts by government and by industry. Agriculture currently contributes approximately 18% of Australia's greenhouse gas emissions, including electricity and fuel use. The land sector, we know, is a net sink of Australia's emissions. That's why our government has been working closely with industry to set the strategic direction for agricultural emissions reduction. And last week, we released the Agricultural and the Land Sector Plan. We've developed this plan from input from so many of you in the room, and I thank you so much if you've been part of that. The Agriculture and Land Sector Plan ensures that for the first time, we have a shared roadmap that supports our farmers, our producers, and our land managers to seize the opportunities that come with reducing emissions. This new framework will mean that agriculture and land sectors appropriately contribute to Australia's net zero target and support the incredible work that has been undertaken by the movement for the last nearly 30 years. It establishes strong foundations for future action as we chart a course to reach this target by 2050. Again, collaboration between all of us will be a key. The plan is backed by significant investments from our government, totalling over $2 billion now to ensure our farmers can confidently face our climate future. As a government, we've continued to build on this investment, acknowledging that farmers and producers are hungry for more opportunities. In late August, the Prime Minister committed an additional $1 billion investment into the Regional Investment Corporation. This was not just extending important drought support for our farmers, but our government also committed to broaden the Regional Investment Corporation's scope to include assistance for providing climate resilience and adaptation on farm. We look forward to working with all of you in this room to ensure that this expanded scope of the Regional Investment Corporation supports the sector's resilience and ambition. These new commitments complement funding that we are already delivering to practically support our farmers. From reducing emissions, improving biodiversity, managing soil health, and supporting research, we've made numerous commitments to support our farmers and our producers to become more resilient and to help adapt to the changing climate. These funding commitments now total more than $300 million through the Climate Smart Agricultural Program, $519 million from the Future Drought Fund, and $60 million as part of the early action towards the Agricultural and Land Sector Plan. As I mentioned earlier, the $1.1 billion Natural Heritage Trust is the key investment vehicle for achieving natural resource management, sustainable agriculture and environmental protection outcomes. One stream under the broader NHT program is more than the $300 million for the Climate Smart Agricultural Program, and this includes capacity building grants. These grants support farmers to have better access to knowledge and skills relating to best practice climate smart, sustainable agricultural approaches. And I'm pleased to announce today that 9 recipients have been successful through the second capacity building grant round, sharing in more than $16 million to deliver practical projects around the country, including $2.7 million to Soils for Life to deliver 2 projects. These funding programs will support our horticultural farmers in Tassie, in northern New South Wales, in far north Queensland, and in southwest Western Australia to adopt climate smart practices. It will also help our proud dairy industry farmers adaptive grazing techniques to reduce their emissions. These projects will boost sustainability, support ongoing collaboration between the agriculture and land sectors, and improve the outcomes we're all here to celebrate today. A big congratulations to those 9 recipients, and I look forward to seeing and hearing of the impacts of these projects. While we know that Australia has a world-class food system, we cannot afford to be complacent or to ignore the new and emerging challenges facing our food supply chains and our systems. How our farmers adapt to a changing climate will be an important feature of the development of our government's new National Food Security Strategy, Feeding Australia. We've opened public consultation for everyone to have their say on how we work towards a more productive, a more resilient and a more secure food system for Australia. The discussion paper submissions will now close on the 1st of October. I would encourage all stakeholders, landholders and farmers, processors, researchers, natural resource management professionals, innovators and consumers to get involved and contribute to this discussion on Australia's food security. We want to look at the inputs to food all the way along the food supply system to the end consumer. As you can see, the Albanese Labor government continues to support the Landcare movement, just as Bob Hawke did back in 1989. We're continuing to invest in our farmers and our producers to support sustainable agriculture and better outcomes for our diverse landscapes. But we know we do not work in isolation. The Agriculture and Land Sector Plan, which I've spoken about, is fundamentally a partnership, a shared pathway to overcome the challenges of the changing climate, to unlock new opportunities for farmers and producers well into our future. And I know so much good work is already being done to support this effort, including from so many of you in the room today. So I want to conclude with a huge thank you for all of the work you do. Our government acknowledges the tremendous effort and we continue to work closely with you. I'd also like to extend a big thank you to Landcare Australia for pulling together this extraordinary event. I've been hearing about how successful it's been over the past few days, and I look forward to the dinner tonight. I'm excited to be able to tonight announce the winners of the 2025 Australian Government National Landcare Awards, including the prestigious Bob Hawke Landcare Award, sponsored by the Australian Government through the Natural Heritage Trust. But in ending, I think we should have a round of applause for all of you and Landcare Australia for organising this wonderful conference. Thanks for having me.
Oh, Minister, thank you so much for being here. Cambrai, I didn't put my shirt on to be in your club, so I need to get this on to complete the image. There we go. That's better. It was always going to be fraught with danger. Hair and makeup, please. Is there anyone? No. They've told me about that for years on Gardening Australia, but it always seems to go to the wrong address. The only trailer I get is a trailer full of compost, which is not too bad. Minister, thank you for being here. Together with the Minister for the Environment, what a wonderful example of trust you're putting in all of us here today, that you value what we are doing and you have put your time aside to come and support all of these people and all of the people within their network. So thank you for being here and thank you for coming along and giving out some awards tonight as well. Our next panel is a special one because I'm sure you've felt it threaded through the event since we began on Sunday. And I'd like to welcome to the stage now our speakers for a panel which is, not that slide, empowering the next generation to lead with Landcare. Now please welcome Annette Cavanagh, Chair of Intrepid Landcare. Kurt Jones, CEO and co-founder of Coexist Australia. Jayden Gunn, project coordinator of the Central New South Wales Woodland Birds Project, and Lindsay Davies, Caring for Country coordinator at Indigital. As they settle in, we're going to cut to a film here just to set the scene.
Protecting such amazing places makes me just feel happy. It all matters in the end, and the community appreciates it too, and that is just awesome. Intrepid Landcare is a youth sector that targets 18 to 35-year-olds who want to make a difference in their local communities. We have groups based across all of Australia, with Meanjin Peninsula having our own Intrepid Landcare group, and we are just a group of 18 to 35-year-olds who are very passionate environmental warriors who are looking to get involved in our local community and make a difference for our beautiful natural areas.
I like volunteering because you get to meet a whole different bunch of people, and normally they're quite like-minded, obviously being in the same space as you. Yeah, and then you're also doing something for the community as well. So yeah, it's just a really good thing to be a part of.
It's great having Intrepid Landcare here today, assisting with the friends group. Our friends group here, sort of average age, is a little bit on the higher side when it comes to life, but it's kind of a nice sort of input of energy to have a younger demographic come along to these working bees. From that, our friends group are really proud of this reserve and what they've achieved, so they're able to share it with someone new.
This was a benighted spot when we started, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. It was just, stuff had been dumped here. It was a bit sad as a piece of land. It's really transforming this small piece of land, you know, back to something it may have been years and years ago.
I think that the little bits and pieces that we do every week or every month will end up helping in the long run. So yeah, it might be small, but as a big picture, yeah, it definitely does make a difference.
Being a part of Intrepid Landcare here on the Meanjin Peninsula just feels like I am making a difference. Seeing so many of the people who come back again and again, just their passion, and just seeing my passion reflected in them is just so inspiring and makes me realise why I'm doing this day in, day out.
For this panel, we're going to look at this framework. What can Landcare look like in 2030? And how can the next generation help to drive the Landcare movement forward? We're going to explore how young people can lead and learn with Landcare. What support do they need to build the future of Landcare through cross-sectoral partnerships, creating inclusive spaces, tools to help manage climate anxiety, mental health and wellbeing, learning from First Nations perspectives, exploring the barriers and opportunities to engage young people, and intergenerational knowledge sharing with the Landcare movement. So, with such a panel, I thought I'm going to be here at the bus and just ask this first question and then allow it to drive. Everyone sitting in this room was once a young Landcare leader, a visionary, a change maker. No matter how many kilometres they have on the clock, they're still young at heart. So, what's so different with this next generation of leaders? And how are you as an individual and as groups or organisations innovating and, most of all, attracting young people to get involved in Landcare activities?
Well, I think right across the country and across the room, you know, there are thousands of Landcare groups and community organisations that are struggling to engage young people. And I think what I'm in the business of is actually getting down to the root cause of that. Why can't we attract young people? And I think I was reflecting this morning, and really it's kind of like the next stage for Landcare, when over 35 years ago it was like, how can we mix environment in with farming and agriculture? How can we start to speak the language of the farming community? And I feel like now it's like, how can we have a conversation around how do we change, adapt, think differently, meet young people where they're at, listen to them, and get them involved. So I think, how can we do it differently? We've got to listen, we've got to make it fun and attractive, and we've got to resource them, equip them to take the step forward and really take it forward.
Yeah, I agree. It really is about meeting young people where they're at. And I guess in this day and age, young people, they're really time poor. They are working, they're studying, they've got young families. And I guess in traditional Landcare, you might you hold your events during the week or have meetings at a time that's not convenient for young persons. So what we're trying to do is address that barrier, and we're having events on weekends when young people can actually rock up and they're available. Our events include a bit of adventure and fun, so that that's enticing and engaging for young people. They want to rock up and meet other like-minded people. So by creating this space where there's other young people at these events, then you're not the only person there, and you can meet like-minded people and come back again. You want to keep coming back when you're making friends and being a part of that. So that's, I guess, how we're trying to address that.
Yeah, and just to add to what Annette just said, it's about meeting young people where they're at and creating space. You know, space. We've all got space on our committees, on our boards. There's space there, but making a safe space, a welcoming place for young people to come in. You know, that's what Intrepid Landcare is built on. It's about creating this space for young people to grow, develop their confidence and their courage and their leadership skills in a place where they're not surrounded by people who are, you know, so experienced and have been in doing it for so long. You know, because that's terrifying. And I've said this before up here a few years ago. But it's about meeting young people where they're at and creating that safe space and those opportunities. And it's also an individual thing. You can't treat all young people in all locations exactly the same. And we quite often get asked, you know, what do we do to get young people to come?
Yeah.
And we do represent some part of youth, but we don't represent all youth. So we don't have an opinion on what we can do to solve this worldwide issue, this national thing. It's not just a Landcare issue. Getting young people involved and engaging with young people. It's across the whole world and in multiple sectors and different organisations and spaces. So yeah, I think meeting young people where they're at and tailoring it to your local community, to your group of young people. Could be farmers out. You know, it's quite difficult to do it in regional areas because they're so different to kids in the city. And so meeting them where they're at and tailoring it to those young people and creating those safe spaces and those welcoming spaces for them, I think is really important.
Yama, Malia. Hello, friends. I'm Lindsay. I'm a Guwamu Kooma man from southwest Queensland, out near Cunnamulla, if you know Queensland. I love this question because when we look back at older generations of Landcare, like at its core, it's getting in the bush and it's doing some regen work or, you know, tree plantings and all this awesome stuff that's deadly. Our young people nowadays, though, like, you know, our new generations are the most connected generation we've ever seen, right? By the age of like 6, these kids know how to work a phone, right? They can go on Instagram. They lead the way in those spaces. So as Jayden said, it's all about how do we actually connect them, right? They're connecting over these games and technology and all the rest of it. But how do we use that as a tool to actually connect them to Landcare and to country, get them back in the bush? Then you got like Brother Kurt here, like connecting young people up. And once they actually get there, you've got this awesome social interaction where they're like, oh man, I come out in the bush, I do fun stuff, I meet cool people. Like, who wouldn't love this? So I think that's the beauty of this next generation, is that they're so connected. They've got everything they need right at their fingertips. It's just how do we then tap in and make that an accessible thing for our land carers. Yeah.
A thread that came through at the film festival, one of the films that Melbourne Water, Barry's team put together, Alex Papadakis, you talk about getting them to the bush. This was an urban space. So when we talk about getting them to the bush, it was from here to the coffee machine. And they're going, how do we get the people there? How do we get the young people there? You want to know what they did? And this is not for everyone, but he said, we just said free coffee and cannoli. And they got all these people there, and they so generously said, we don't know all the information, but then the partnerships bought the information, but they bought the people. And it was the energy that was there. And then with those people coming, then more people came, and it just grew and grew. So you absolutely nailed what the essence of that question is about. And I think what that question does is draw the line in the sand and say, let's not keep defaulting to that, oh, why don't we have young people in Landcare? Because that's the easy answer. Did you want to say?
Yeah, and I think, one thing that I often hear that's asked about young people, you open Instagram, and one of the biggest concerns of the youth of today is climate change. It is the environment. Young people are thinking about this. But why are they not involved and engaged in the local community where the actual action is happening? How can we shift that passion that's online and that eco-anxiety actually into action and agency? But then you've got the other demographic of young people, and talk about the root cause of an issue. So many young people just aren't connected to nature. They're not spending time outside. So how can we actually take them on a journey? And I think as an environment sector, we can very easily, and we often do, we're speaking to the converted all the time. The people that are donating to us, that are volunteering with us, most likely they're already passionate about that issue. But I think for young people, reach them where they're at. We created a model of explore, connect, protect. So if we're wanting to achieve more young people outside, looking after the places that they love, well, our model is, let's just create community. Let's get young people outside. There's so much incredible research and advocacy and activism. All this stuff is so important. But for a lot of young people, they also just shut off to that. So we've got to do this, but we also can't leave the other demographic behind. So let's get more young people outside exploring, hikes, campouts, retreats, at the beach. How do we turn a young person's passion for surfing into protecting the coast? How do we turn a young person's passion for camping and hiking into advocating for their local bushland to become a national park? And then, they start to go on that journey. And it's really not just about getting young people out. How do we get them involved in Landcare? How do we do social media and TikToks? No, the question is, how can we shift national and global culture to connect more young people back to nature? Because once we fix that issue, we're not just fixing environmental issues, we're fixing the mental health crisis.
Annette, I hear the language, right? I mean, you mentioned explore, Intrepid. Like, this is engagement. How do you see that engagement that Kurt's talking about through Intrepid?
Yeah, I think it's really, really important to create those opportunities for young people. There's a lot of young people that are out there and they want to do stuff, as Kurt says. They're really, really passionate about addressing these climate change issues or biodiversity loss, and they want to feel like they're doing something to address that eco-anxiety. So it's about creating those opportunities, and I think by having that space, like creating that space where you can go on an adventure, we include those fun activities into what we do, so that we might do tree planting with a local Landcare group and assist them with that labour, I guess, and then we go for a hike, or then we'll jump on some canoes and go for a little paddle down the river. And those exciting activities is what makes it Intrepid in the name, and is what makes it exciting for a young person to come along to these events, because they're not just going and planting trees and then having a cup of tea and then talking to some people and, oh, okay, I'll go home now. There's something more exciting about coming along.
Yeah, and talk about a booster, like you just touched on mental health and resilience, and and climate anxiety, and like they're major issues. But how good does it feel getting out there and doing it? Like how at the end of a tree planting or a bit like the beach cleanup that we did on Saturday, that was fantastic, and you felt great doing it. And we were given praise and stuff, but we're not there for praise. We were there for the actual act of doing it and you know, giving back. And I just wanted to, speaking of doing it and and you know, a place to voice our actions. I just want to shout out to Melissa Higgins over there. Can I get a round of applause for her? And Millie, who have worked tirelessly with us. You know, Sunday, how good was Sunday? It was incredible. The room was electric. There was so much inspiration and you know, passion in that room, and people were walking away wanting to do stuff, wanting to do more. And that's rolled on through the whole conference. You know, we've been having so many meaningful conversations, and that's all because we were given a place and a platform to share those stories on those Intrepid adventures, on those coexist adventures with each other, and you know, inspire others and take that to a bigger stage and see that, you know, that we are really connected. There are a lot of us out here. You would have seen there are so many young faces here, and more so than I've seen in past years. And it's because people like Mel and Landcare Australia have given us the opportunity to do that. So yeah, thank you.
Thinking about this thread that we're on, successional planning is vital, and that's really what the undertone is here. And how can young leaders connect with established Landcare groups who can help mentor the next generation and share their experience and expertise? As Natalie and Samantha were saying, that this knowledge can be passed down, but people need to be there and receive that knowledge with time and respect. What are your thoughts there on the successional side?
Earlier this year, I was very privileged to go over to New York and speak at the United Nations. I was there at the United Nations Permanent Forum for Indigenous Issues. And I was sat talking one day with an uncle from Hawaii named Uncle Sol. And very wise old man and I asked him, Uncle, what's the one thing you think we need to change in how we operate? Just looking at systems at large and stuff. And he was like, we need to duplicate ourselves. I was like, what? What do you mean by that? He's like, well, Lindsay, if there was another one of you here as well, imagine how much more work you'd get done. I'm like, yeah, true. Like, genuinely though. And then I look at all of like our elders in the room, like, you know, you're all elders of some sort. You've got more knowledge than I have. You've got the respect, you've put in the hard yards, right? Imagine if we had a duplicate of all of you. Like, I think we'd get a fair bit of stuff done. Sorry, excuse my language. But we'd be kicking goals, right? The best thing is that every young person in this room wants to learn from you. Right? So when it comes to succession planning, it's pretty easy. Bring that young person into the space with you. Whether it's a board meeting or whether it is just a cup of tea down the road with the auntie, just bring them along. Have the yarns. It doesn't need to be a formal succession plan where you write up a 10-page report and say you got to sign this and tick these goals and whatnot. But it's where are you opening the door for the next generation to come and sit alongside you and just learn. Yeah, that's my thought.
A tangible experience for us was, you might have known National Tree Day, great program. That was just a couple of months ago. And we reached out to a local bush care group in Brisbane to, you know, bring young people along. And we did it. We had 45 young people come along, and the event finished. And the coordinator came over to me and said, Kurt, the work we've just done in the last hour would have taken our 5 volunteers, dedicated volunteers, 5 months to do. So, you know, we planted a few hundred trees, we pulled out plenty of weeds, we spreaded lots of mulch. And I think, like, you know, we can't do this without you guys, and you guys can't do this without us. So, you know, like, practically is open your communities up to young people. Give them the opportunity. For us, building Coexist, we've made plenty of mistakes, and we've learnt from those that have gone before, and we've replicated different models, but we do not want to rewrite the wheel. You guys are out there in your communities restoring nature, have so much knowledge for us to learn from to build the next generation. But for young people, as we've mentioned, there are so many other things that we're thinking about. Young people that are studying, they're working part-time, multiple jobs, the cost of living crisis, sport, relationships, and so much more. So our model was, all right, let's not do all of our own restoration projects, because there's all these groups that need younger people, but they have so much experience and knowledge around the restoration. So how can we build a community online and then partner with these groups and bring young people to you guys? Our young people don't necessarily have the time and the eagerness to do ACNC reports and sit on committees and apply for grants. But for those young people that do want to learn that do want to gain those skills, how can we then get funding to actually build a team of young people to learn those skills, to then support the young people that are out there going into the communities and supporting the Landcare groups? So for us, it was really about experimenting and finding the right model between allowing young people to be out there, have fun. Our local leaders, we really only asked them to do a couple of things: be the face of their region on social media, rock up on the day, and tell us how it went. Then our admin team, staff, do the grants, we do the marketing, the governance, and we take all of that burden off them. And one day they might look back and say, I remember the time I had at Intrepid events, Coexist events, Urban Gorillas events. I want to join my local Landcare group. And that's shifting culture. It's planting a passion in them while they're young, but also just letting kids be kids. But again, very key thing, the controversial topic, money. If there's young people that want to grow these skills, build, we need to be hiring them to lead the youth programs. And that's something that I think we've been so lucky to be able to do. And the results that we've got out of that is absolutely incredible. Young people are passionate, they're driven, and social media has even evolved so much in the last 10 years. So if we're talking about the next generation, we need to be working with the next generation, youth. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the succession and the intergenerational knowledge, and it's really, really important that Landcare groups that are existing now, and you might have the experienced land carers and you are wanting to engage with young people, it's really, really important to be embracing young people and giving them those opportunities. And I mean, that's how I've come to be where I am now. I was a part of my local Landcare group. I was the youngest person in the group by 3 decades, but that didn't faze me. I was really passionate. But then we had the AGM, and I actually walked away from that meeting being the president, and it's
a bit of a common trend across this conference.
It definitely is, and I think that, it shows the nature of traditional Landcare groups really like calling out for young people, and when there is a young person that comes along, they're putting them in those committee positions, I guess. I was very intimidated by that at the time, but I know now how much of an opportunity that was and how much experience that's given me and all the skills that I've gained from being president then, and then I moved into Intrepid Landcare when I found out that there was actually a Landcare group for young adults. That's really set me up well, and it's real. I think that's we really need to have those connections between in our Intrepid Landcare groups now, we're working really closely with the existing Landcare groups where we're not, we are sometimes going out and doing our own thing, but more often than not, we're teaming up with the traditional Landcare groups. And that intergenerational knowledge, that sharing, and that skill building, we're helping you, you're helping us, and it's just a really, really beautiful thing to be a part of.
So you're really tapping into that theme that's come through today and yesterday, which is about that acknowledgement and recognition of trust in those groups. Jayden, do you want to expand on that a little bit in terms of just how that trust being there is the gateway? It's the onboarding point to bring the youth into those existing trusted spaces.
Yeah, definitely. I was really lucky. Just shout out to Tracy from Mid-Lachlan Landcare, sitting in the middle there. She's like my Landcare mother. And she just, she saw my passion and just took it and ran with it. And she's been, so supportive. Couldn't have done anything without her. So I was really lucky there, and given a place straight away and just made welcome. And that was before Intrepid Landcare. Naomi found me and pulled me into Intrepid Landcare, and I was some sort of an opposite story that you'd usually, it's not the general Intrepid model. It was created this safe place for young people to grow and develop in with other young people. But I had that support network with my Landcare, with Mid-Lachlan Landcare. So I think it'd probably be better for you. I think you'd answer that question a little bit, maybe, or someone else. I've had a very different experience, and I'm very lucky to have had that. The way that I've sort of come into this organisation and been supported by adults straight away from the get-go.
And the thread's the same, and I'll throw this one. Like, each of you have followed a pathway to get where you are today, whether that's been through your university degrees or your first-hand experience across, as we were talking about the other night, of hands-on learning. What support, from your perspective, would you like to see to help grow careers for the next generation?
Like I've sort of already touched on, it's getting that seat at the table, right? It's not asking for much. If you're brought into a company as a young person, like, you're more than just the role you play, right? I'm sure I might be wearing the hat as the social media officer or something like that, like every young person in the room probably has experienced. But why doesn't that person then get recognized for anything other than that? Unfortunately, we get stuck operating on a very hierarchical system in a lot of our places of work that says, my title this, my person this, right? It's title above who you are. And I think we need to recognize that in particular in our strategy, in our board meetings, in all the rest of this really high-level strategic stuff, we probably need to recognize the people before the title sometimes. That's where the beauty of having young people around you can come in. We can be the ones to help shift and drive and bring in fresh perspectives, right? The innovators. So I think that those doors need to be opened, and they're the biggest things that I found, at least in my journey, that when those doors get opened and you sit in those rooms, you're like, hey, aren't you just the social media guy? Like, yeah, but I'm a young person first. Yeah.
I just want to bring this back to what Kurt was saying about money, support. We're throwing billions of dollars at things like oil rigs. It isn't our government's responsibility to clean up. Like, we throw billions of dollars into Landcare. Throw billions, not billions, into youth. Oh, we'll spend it, but yeah.
We'll spend it.
Like Steve Irwin said, the famous Steve Irwin, give me all. If you've got money, you want to give it to me, give it to me. I'll take it and I'll spend it on threatened species conservation. That's what we need. We need resources to get the job done. And the youth sort of sector is quite under-resourced. It's very under-resourced. It's difficult to take those steps. And how hard was your journey getting into initially at the start?
Yeah. I might even just share a little bit too. For context, it was my year 11 business assessment to come up with a business idea, was volunteering in the community, the only young person, wanted to create a space for young people to connect. And finished school, 6 months later, registered the charity. 6 months later, after that, built a team, built a brand, started our journey and getting out there and trying to make a difference. And our first year of events was 2023. We had 200 young people sign up and be involved, and we did 24 events, and that was so big and huge and exciting. 2024 came, we finished the year doing 120 events across 8 cities across Australia and had 1,800 young people join. But what I want to say is all of those stats, people can throw that out, but this isn't rocket science. We engaged 1,800 young people last year across 8 cities around Australia, planted 23,000 trees, and we hired young people, and we spent $290,000. That's it. But we have empowered young people to rise up and lead the way. We're not asking for much. We want a seat at the table. We want a little bit of funding so that we can pay rent, and far out, imagine what we could do. Just dream with me for a second. I often say, imagine if we had 50 to 100 young people in every major town and city across the country just attending a tree planting once a month, going to a beach cleanup, or just going on a hike. Could you imagine not just the impact that would have on the Landcare scene or the environmental scene? Could you imagine the social impact that would have? The thousands of young people that would be in community, connecting, out of depression, anxiety, loneliness, and actually building the future for Landcare. This is what we all want. So let's get behind the young people, support them, and let's bloody get it done. Because all of you guys and all of us, we're not going to be around here forever. Now is the time to change. Just like 10 to 15 years ago, First Nations people were crying out for a seat at the table. And we are definitely not where we need to be with that space. But we're moving there. Now, young people are saying, we want a seat at the table. We want to be helping lead the way. All of these things are important. The Landcare bodies, the groups, the First Nations, and the young people. And I think if we can actually start to acknowledge that, listen to young people and enable them, we're going to change the world. We're going to shift conservation. And Australia will become a leader in youth-led global conservation. And I want to thank Landcare for getting behind us because it's happening. It's happening. Yeah, it's exciting.
I'll just let that settle. Just, you know, we do need to create space sometimes just to think about what's been said and where we sit with that and what we can do with it. Because, you know, one of the things that I've just been ruminating on, and I like what Joe said. He said, I've been thinking about this and pondering these things and observing these things for 20 years. Like, we all do that. And then the question is, well, what do we do with that? And when we see that level of spark and energy, sometimes it can almost be a bit like, ooh. But rather than react to it, I think it's important just to sit with it. And that isn't about being intimidating. It's not about being... Yes, is it disruptive? Yes, but it's only disruptive if we hang on out of like that fear of change. And I think what's nice and what I'm really most excited about having the chance to sit with you and all of you who you represent is, and take this one whichever way you think, because I think it's sort of a each way bet. Too often we listen, but we don't hear. Or we hear, but we're not listening. And when we give ourselves that space to actually hear what we're listening to, we can then take it away and let it marinate. And I know that Samantha was talking about this across both of her comments, that you know, we do things, they do things respectfully, and you know, uncle or someone wants to get back for the cuppa, well, get back for the cuppa. You know, when we go out and film, one of the things that I said, one of our teams was going out on country last month, and I said, I learnt something so important, you know, and that's just when you're speaking to someone, you ask the question and then leave it and listen. Listen. Don't be looking at your next question. Don't be thinking about what you want. Don't hear what you want to hear. Just actually hear what was said. And I'm really appreciating listening to what you're saying, because you've been given this space, and you've not been given this space to say anything with aggression or anger or hey, you know. This is about being in this space because this has been a process to get it here from 2022 and saying, well, why not? Let's break those one-liners that have always kept you in this space. And so now you have this space on this stage talking about things that don't only matter, but that they are the things that we are going to take forward to where we want to be. You go forward because you say, well, there's a vision, let's dream. What if, as you asked, as you both just asked, what if? And that's why we're together, because we're all asking what if. And, you know, it's a pleasure to be asking the what ifs with you, because you bring the perspective that we know is going to be that baton of intergenerational change. So your answers, go back and listen over this when the video's set, because your answers are the framework for where we need to be going. And I'm sitting very close to this, that's why.
I just wanted to bump in, Costa, sorry, and just really thank you for giving us this opportunity to be able to come here and have our voice, to Mel, to Doug, to the whole Landcare Australia team for actually giving us this place, to Dika, yes, for supporting the Next Gen Landcare Summit on the Sunday. It was an incredible event to be able to have so many young people in this space doing, like, really, really passionate and wanting to do good things for the environment. And we did do a Next Gen Landcare Forum back in 2022. That was quite small. And then this has grown into we're having this whole day workshop that we were able to do to bring so many young people into the space and to connect and to know that they're not alone out there, that there's other passionate people for them to connect with. But I also just wanted to say that yes, there are so many young people out there that are passionate and they're wanting to do stuff and they are doing stuff. There's so many young people doing stuff, but we can't place that burden of engaging young people and having young people involved on the young people themselves, because we sort of grab onto a young person, as I said before, and be like, oh, this is a young person, this is our succession. And then we place all of the burden onto them and get them to do all of the work and do the TikToks or whatever, but like all of the grant writing, even if they're in a paid position, they are still placed with all of this burden because they are a young person in this space. And I think, I know of so many people that are suffering burnout because they are the young person in this space and they don't have others around them. They are that one sole person, or they are in a community, I guess, but it just needs more support. So that's what I really think is so important, and I think it's great that we've got this opportunity, and I hope that you are all here today and you can give us that support that we need. And thank you, Costa, for that.
I don't know, when you hear truth that goes into a space that, this ain't about me, it's about you. We got some great questions coming in, and I'll throw this first one. Who is a person in Landcare that has opened a door for you? How can we become that for someone else?
Melissa's getting so much praise today, and I think she deserves it. A big round of applause. I was starting out on my journey in when I finished school in 2022, my first year out, and really just enthusiastic, wanting to change the world, wanting to do something good. And someone said, start posting on LinkedIn. So I did it. And Melissa reached out and she liked every one of my posts. She commented, and then eventually she asked to meet with me. And that led to then her getting me on the SBS Changemakers podcast. That then led to the family, the Vincent Fairfax Family Foundation, hearing me on that podcast. That then led to $500,000 investment. So if it wasn't for Mel seeing young people, knowing that we need them and we need to support them, we wouldn't be where we are today. And then further on, that relationship has just developed. She has brought together every youth conservation organisation in the country, given us a space to speak and change the world. And, even together, we're so much stronger already, and we're collaborating, and we're just looking towards the future. And, you know, Mel, Karen, Millie, there's so many of them, Shane, CEO, and Doug has been such an incredible hero, Brendan Foran. These people are recognizing that it's the next step. We need to change the way we're thinking. We need to step out. And, you know, my encouragement to everyone here today is, you know, how do I become that person? Well, let's let this conference, Landcare Conference 2025, be the changing point. Let's all be co-founders in the youth conservation revolution in Australia. Let's move forward. Everyone reach out to a youth group when you get back. Everyone, how can I support one young person? Something's happening and we've got to get behind it because it's beautiful and it's exciting. And I think that if we can all do one little thing and support one young person, just like these guys have done, look at the change that's happened. If I've spent $300,000 in the last year and created such a small but large amount of impact, what could we do if we had $1 million each? Nothing. It's scraps. Let's get behind it. Let's move forward. Let's all work together. And I think, wow, so much could happen.
Lindsay?
I've got a bit of a different perspective on the question, I guess, on who opened the door for Landcare. Truthfully, before this weekend, or before I started doing work with the Next Gen crew here, I'd never really done anything in Landcare. Like straight up. Never been to a tree planting, never done any of that. For me, Landcare is caring for country. And the person that opened that door for me was every single auntie, uncle, community member that has sat me down at a table and had a cup of tea. They've shared story, right? They've shared law. And I need to give a special shout out to my uncle, Uncle Den, who's somewhere out here. He's one of the best cultural fire practitioners in the country. I'm giving you a little spruce there, Unc. But people like Uncle Den graciously share story with me. And it's that story that connects us all and then connects us back to the land. And without that, I wouldn't have had that seat at the table to be able to be like, yeah, I know what Landcare is, or I know what caring for country is. It all starts with story, it all starts with the land. So ultimately, who was the one that opened that seat? It was those aunties, those uncles, those community members. And it was the land there, right? So I think that's where I want to not tip my hat to, you know? Yeah.
Well, I guess first off, if I go back to the very start, the person who opened the Landcare door for me was my dad. He was very passionate about conservation and looking after the land, in farming, involved in Landcare, and that's, I guess, how I got started. But then from that, I think I have to give a shout out to Megan and Naomi and Pete as well, the original Intrepid Landcarers. You guys really showed me this space and welcomed me in, and I got introduced to so many other young people that were doing this, and I guess that's where my journey started, and I'm really, really grateful, and I just want to be here, I guess, as the chair, introducing more people and bringing more people into the Intrepid Landcare space, because it's a great place to be.
Mine's a couple of people. So one, she's not here, but she's a former Landcare coordinator, Vanessa Kane. Some of you might know her. And then I've already thanked Tracy. I'm surprised you're not hiding under the table. You knew this was coming. Tracy Burke, Mid-Lachlan Landcare, has just supported me in every way possible. Like in 2018, I was working for Landcare for a month. Sent me straight to the National Landcare Conference immediately. Go have the time of your life. Go learn as much as you can. Go network. And that led to getting with Intrepid Landcare, meeting Naomi and the team, and it's all just snowballed from there. It's just been the most joyful journey ever, and I'm so grateful for everyone who's been involved in that and helped me along that journey. So thank you.
What should be left in the past and what should be taken into the future? Thanks for that one.
I guess something that can be left in the past. I mean, we've talked a bit about this over the last couple of days is about like those silos and having the older, well, the experienced people and then your younger people, and that sort of, I guess maybe there is some sort of mistrust or misunderstanding that young people know what they want to do, or they're seen as not having that experience. And maybe that is true that they don't have that experience, but what we need to do is give them that experience, I guess, or give them the opportunity to have that experience, and not just assume that young people don't know, because they have a lot of skills and they also want to learn more. So yeah, breaking down that into the generational divide, I guess.
Because you're doing a program of leadership, aren't you?
We have done in the past, had some leadership programs where we're inviting young people to come and connect with the local Landcare groups and establish people in the Landcare space. Yeah.
My two are linked. They're sort of like a bit together, but I'd say like gatekeeping. Let's leave that in the past. It's a bit lame. Like, why do you need to gatekeep things? Come on. And the other one is ego. I think that in a lot of these spaces, unfortunately, when you have a lot of pride and a lot of experience, what usually comes out is a little bit of ego at the end. But if we left that in the past and we all entered a room just as humans, right, as people, I could have something to learn off you, brother's got something to learn off me. Sweet, reciprocity, we're winning, right? I think they can be left in the past.
I don't know how to do this without going on a rant. The whole systematic issue with, it's not land care, it's conservation in general, the whole ecological space and conservation land management space. So that this system of, here's your little pool of money, fight over it, may the best win, that system, leave that in the past. That's ridiculous. And then move forward. I don't actually have the new system at hand, but invite us to the table. We'll work on that. Ministers, you're in the room, aren't you? Somewhere still? They might have already run. No, but you know, a new system. There's so much we can do, so much better than we're doing it currently. You know, and then there's like, for example, you know, if with grant processes, if you go for a thing and get, say, $250,000 for a threatened species, and you spend that $250,000 on that threatened species, and you do great work for that 5 years or whatever it is, and then the money runs out, you can't go for another $250,000 for that threatened species again for that exact same project. And that issue that's affecting that threatened species doesn't go away. But you can't replicate the whole process because it's been done before. It's not new and exciting, and it's not marketable. So yeah.
Yeah, I think just following up with what Lindsay and Annette said, you know, like one thing that I experienced as a young person is just not being taken seriously. Like young people have so much passion. They don't necessarily have the experience, but how can we actually, you know, reach them where they're at and take them along for that journey? And I think, you know, very honestly, some of the experiences that we've had with some, you know, groups is the gatekeeping. You know, oh, young people don't want to volunteer. They're just going to come and plant a couple of trees and then leave. So it's like, what can we take into the future? It's actually just opening up our mindset, listening to young people. Well, what would make you come? What would make you learn, and what would make you stay? So I think moving forward, it's, you know, do we have to get a coffee machine in? Do we have to, really identify one young person in our network that we can, really get behind them, champion them, and, help them with social media, and I suppose just start to actually take those steps to get where we want to be. But attitudes and egos are a big thing in this space, and, going on from what Jayden had just said, why is the non-for-profit sector more competitive than the commercial sector? Like, why? I don't understand. It shouldn't be, and it can't be. So I think moving forward, we've just got to change our minds. Yeah, minds and attitudes.
Speaking of minds, we've kind of orbited through this a little bit, but that mental health and well-being, you tapped on it earlier. But how and what are you observing from young people in your networks when it comes to, that mental health space and what the projects that you're doing and their involvement and inclusion in the entirety of the project. How are you seeing this influence mental health and well-being and the challenges that you all mentioned earlier?
I guess, there's so many young people that are wanting to do stuff, as we've mentioned before, but they are in isolation. They think that they're the only one and that there's no one else out there. And I was speaking to someone, but maybe this is the way the media frames it because they don't want anyone to do anything. But they think that they're alone, but they're not. And we have to showcase that and make it visible to young people that they aren't alone and there's other people. And that gets those young people out of their houses and outside. And I guess maybe I'm a bit of an exception because I was going along to my Landcare group being the youngest person, and I continued to. But a lot of young people would be intimidated by that, and they aren't going to go because they're not enjoying the conversations or they're just feeling a little bit out of place. So by having this space where young people can be connecting with other young people, it's building that sense of community, and they're finding friends. Like, there's actually people, if you're moving to a new area, or even if you've been there for a long time and you don't actually know anyone that has those similar interests, you can come to this common place, and there's this space where you can all be doing the same thing that you want to do, and you're creating friendships. And that sense of community and purpose, it's giving young people a purpose. So if you're, a lot of young people are struggling with mental health and the challenges of today's world, but if you actually go out and you have that sense of purpose and that drive and you've got something to wake up for, then that's so important for our mental health. It's like Landcare's saving lives. It actually is.
I just want to go back to what you were saying about trust earlier, and that's what Intrepid Landcare coexist, where we form these groups and we trust each other. And there's a story, I don't know if anyone's heard of it. It's a children's book about Billy Bixby and his dragon, and he keeps going, "Mum, there's a dragon." She goes, "No, it does. No, there's not. No, there's not." And it gets bigger and bigger. "Mum, there's a dragon." "No, there's not. No, there's not." It gets bigger and bigger until eventually it's so big that its legs and tail and head are sticking out of the house, and it runs off with the whole house, and they have to go, and she has to admit, "Oh my God, there is a dragon." And it's like that. That's what I'm trying to reference that to mental health issues. If what we're doing is talking about them, we're trying to encourage people to talk about them. If you don't talk about them, they keep getting bigger and bigger. And like Megan and myself did in the 2021, was it? Conference, when we were all stuck at home online through COVID, we did a discussion on mental health and resilience through COVID and our experiences with that. And, we did that in hope that, that we know how we were feeling. So in hope that other people out there might want to hear that they're not alone, and there's other people suffering too, and it's okay to talk about it, and, to not let that dragon grow so big that it's going to run off with your house. So, yeah.
Again, taking a slightly different perspective on the question.
That's what we like.
Yeah. I see when we talk about mental health and well-being, like it's a cornerstone to who us as mob or Indigenous people are, right? Being on country, connecting to country, you're not healthy if you're not connecting with country, and you're not healthy if country's not healthy as well. So it's got a direct correlation there. And having these yarns with you mob on stage and all the rest of, the you mob that I've met over the past week or so, it's really apparent that it's not just a mob or an Indigenous or a First Nations concept. That mental health and well-being is linked with nature is a human concept. And the more that we can build in connecting, especially as young people, especially now in the modern age where we're spending more time than ever on screens and all that sort of thing, the more time we take out of our days to connect with country and sit and be still, connect to nature. If you meet a couple of deadly people along the way and they come help you plant some trees, then mad. But we need that built into who we are as beings. So it's been awesome to see that the people in this room and my brothers and sisters on stage here take that similar approach, and we're trying to push this message far and wide. I think that if our systems also started to acknowledge this as well, our justice, our health, our food systems, we'd start to see this revolution of what well-being actually is. And it's not just looking after ourselves as humans, but it's being able to look after country as well.
I could get a bow and put it there, but I feel like we've just naturally come to this point where, I mean, I can frame it in whatever way, but ultimately I just want to throw it and say, share with us what if 2030 beyond, not just that linear idea as we heard about in the last panel, but that circular reality. What are you looking at? What are you ifing? What do you want to see? Just share some final thoughts each.
I guess what I would love to see in the future of Landcare for young people is, I guess, some facilitators in every state and territory across Australia that is dedicated to supporting young people in the Landcare space. And it's not just a side role or something they can do in their spare time when they've done all of their other things, but they're actually dedicated and committed to supporting young people. So I think that will take a lot of burden off the young people that are already in this space, and it's just going to bring more and more young people. And as I said, there are so many young people that are doing things, but we can only do so much, and we need to make sure that we are not doing more than we are capable of, because then we do experience that burnout. So we either need to get more people involved, which a Landcare facilitator could do, or else we're just going to have to accept that things are going to take a long time. And maybe we're happy with a long time, with things taking a long time, but we're young people and we're at this critical stage now where we are developing our careers and life's happening. So we need the pace to pick up. So yeah, if we had dedicated facilitators that could contribute towards that, that would be an amazing thing, amazing outcome of this.
And I think we'll happily co-design that together with all of you. Let's do it.
For me, it's seeing more young mob back on country. Across our urban areas in particular, see more and more of our young First Nations people losing connection to country and losing connection to culture. They need those stories. We've got our knowledge holders out on country, all our deadly aunties, uncles, and community members. They hold stories, they hold law, but we need to connect our young ones back up to that. So my vision for 2030 is seeing a deadly strong, safe, and healthy youth of Indigenous young people that are led the way through culture, through story.
I think I want to do more stuff. I want to do more work, more conservation projects. I want to plant more trees and do all these. I would. So I want to be taken seriously. Not me as an individual. It's not just youth. The whole conservation and land management industry. Invest in it. We need more money. I want to go out and do so many things and work with so many species, and we need the money to do it. We can do so much. We have so much more we can give, but we're limited by what we have and what we've got to budget really tightly to be able to actually do anything. And the effect that we could have against what we're actually having is just a drop in the ocean. So that's I want. I'm just going to go on about money over and over again. That's what I want. More money.
Over recent decades in Australia, we've built this huge force for good, this very grassroots, impactful conservation scene. We got behind Martin Copley starting AWC. We got behind Bob Brown and all of his incredible work. We got behind Captain Paul Watson starting Sea Shepherd. Look at the force of good that has been created and the people and the environment to impact. It's our turn. We need to flip the page. We need to get behind young people. We want to be able to step up on this stage or be in these seats in 50 years' time and, look at each other and like, wow, look at the support that we got. Look what we built together, and now we can then hand that mantle over again to the next generation. So that's obviously very broad, but, all of those other things then come from that, the funding, the support, the resources, the trust. So I think, really, it's just about acknowledging, listening, and enabling, and helping us, all be a co-founder in building this youth conservation revolution.
And I just wanted to finish off saying that it's not about us, I guess. It's not about just young people. It's about everyone. This is in everyone's best interests that we support young people.
Oh. I've been taking notes. I could repeat those as a GIF and share it, because the points that you all summarised there, dedicated facilitators, deadly strong, safe and healthy youth. I want to do more stuff. And funding, support, resources and trust. I think the four of you have brought it around, and all I have to do is get the rope and go, we've come ashore. Please thank our panel. Oh. Kurt Jones, Annette Cavanagh, Jayden Gunn, and right here next to me, Lindsay Davies. What a fantastic conversation. Thank you. And I look forward to sitting up the back there with you in 50 years.
And come have a chat to us. We don't bite, I promise.
Yeah.
And I think we also just can't say this enough. Firstly, a huge thank you to all of you guys. You would have saw that NextGen was so heavily embedded into this program for this conference. But thank you for listening. Thank you for cheering. Thank you for supporting us. As Jayden said, come have a chat. But lastly, we can't say it enough. Young people want to engage with organisations, and, youth has become this tokenism thing. But Landcare Australia has actually harnessed something that has become so beautiful, impactful. They brought us all together, and this conference, we feel that something is about to happen, and it's so powerful. So again, I think if we can all just give Melissa Higgins, I suppose she's National Director of Marketing and Comms, but I suppose she's also the Chief Let's Get Behind Youth Officer at Landcare Australia. So a big round of applause to Mel, Karen, Doug, Brendan, the whole team. We're so grateful and excited for what's ahead.
Well, thanks, team. That's one of those moments where I have to say the bus has reached the end station. You're welcome to alight the bus for our next session. So thank you. Oh, that was a kiss on mic. It was quite loud. Haven't been mic'd up for a kiss before. Woo! Woo! I'm blushing under here. Fortunately, you can't see it. Oh, wow. I need to take a breath, but I can't. I'm going to carry on into our next and closing session. And for that, we have Dr. Alison Southwell from Holbrook Landcare Network. And I should have let him stay right here, but I'd rather him come back up on stage for a new introduction. Lindsay Davies, and they're going to share their insights and perspectives on the conference, what they've experienced, and, throw a few challenges out there on what can be done next. So, Lindsay and Alison, take it away.
Thanks, Costa.
Thank you. I don't know how to follow that, to be quite honest. The passion was just huge, and I think particularly that last bit, I think Jayden, particularly, you said everything I wanted to say, so well done. Yes, how do you summarise a conference when it's only halfway through? It doesn't feel like it's finished yet. So we apologise to all the groups, the people that haven't presented yet. It's not that your talks, I'm sure, are any less worthy of commendation, but it's, just the way the program rolls. That's how it is.
We'll make it work. So this is going to be a pretty informal little way to wrap up a massive conference like this. So we're going to have a bit of a yarn. Costa's going to get involved. There's questions. Just throw them out. We'll just see how we go. It'll be fun. Yeah. So Alison, what have been your big takeaways?
Oh, look, Nat Somerville was talking about gold, and throughout the first day I was going around, what was the little gold, bits of gold that you found? And I've got a list. So starting from the top with Fiona Simpson, the one-eyed solutions create more problems. We need holistic action. I thought that was pretty good gold. Start from the same knowledge base. I think a lot of today and yesterday has been about that. And Brendan Foran said, purpose is the first line of defence, and I really like that one.
Smashing. Mine were rather similar, surprisingly enough. On my sheet of paper, I have decolonising our systems, which for me means looking holistic rather than siloed, which has been a running theme that we've heard throughout not only the youth section, but like the whole day, plus yesterday. And the other one was that intersection of knowledge, which is finding our middle grounds, right? There's been a lot of emphasis on how each sort of player in a space brings their own knowledges. But as people, it's probably better to connect on that middle ground first, so then we can build really reciprocal relationships around what we want. So that's been an awesome yarn to sit in and sort of think about. It's been marinating in my head a fair bit.
Yeah, Doug did say that Landcare is fundamentally about connection, so there you go. Another one that I really liked, Samantha Murray, you gave me heaps of good quotes here. Culture and science will save this planet. Anyone else like that one? Yeah, I like that one. I did quote you, Costa, too.
Oh, gracious. That's scary.
It's only a little one.
Oh, okay.
Optimism is contagious. And I think you can see from the panel here that optimism really is contagious, isn't it? You can see how working with youth has real benefits for everyone involved with Landcare.
And building off that, I think there's been a running theme the whole past 3 days, starting on Sunday, that our young people aren't the future, they're the now.
Yeah, and I think we can safely say the future is in good hands with the calibre of the people we had.
Yeah.
So if I move on to a few little nuggets of gold from some of the sessional things, I did really like Grovier's democratising carbon. I thought that was a beauty. So yes, what does the future of carbon look like? That's an interesting one. And I did get another beautiful one from, I've got the name on the other page and I've got no hands, Dr. Rice. Plant flowers. He had a lot of really good stuff in there, but at the end of the day, plant flowers. That was a good one.
Hey, Jayden, you mentioned something about ego. Would it be ego if I actually took a note of my own quote? Just not sure.
Let's hear the quote and we can all make a judgment.
When I quote myself.
Yeah. Shoot. Are you going to quote yourself?
No. I just heard a quote. I just feel a bit guilty about quoting myself on my own page.
A big yarn that was had this morning that I've sort of seen float throughout a lot of the different discussions and plenary sessions was around recognising the rights of Indigenous people. And I want to address that as a room that UNDRIP, or the Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People, is the bare minimum for practice in Australia. And it needs to be recognised throughout every system we build from here forward. Right? This is not a new document. It was signed in 2009, been around a long time. Yet we're still seeing new systems come to play, like our nature repair and biodiversity markets that actually don't recognise the rights of Indigenous peoples through that document. So I'd love to see that a little bit deeper, because it is the benchmark, it's the bare minimum, and we're not meeting there currently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that overlying theme of the importance of knowledge holders is really fundamental to what we've heard here today too. So respect around that. And Samantha, again, I loved your message around don't be fearful of disrespect because it leads to inaction. You know, yarning up, being ethical in the way you do things. I think that was really important. Key themes.
Key themes.
Anything else pop out for you?
I think, like you've just touched, yarning up, respect, reciprocity. I will fire the word reciprocity every second of every day because I think it is absolutely everything. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. Where are you giving more than you're taking? I think that's been a really beautiful running theme throughout the past 2 days in particular, of how can we give more than we take? That's both in terms of looking after the land and country, but also into our relationships and our people. At the end of the day, we should be connectors. We're Landcare. We're people first.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that comes back a little bit to the overall theme of what we're talking about too. Agriculture, land care, and so on. What I've really enjoyed this conference, and I'm a scientist by training, so I love a bit of data. But what's really excited me is the level of information and the data and evidence that we're collecting now. Fiona made a comment about solutions must be meaningful, sustainable, credible, and evidence-based. And what I'm seeing is that, particularly with the embracing of technology that we've seen across a lot of presentations, that it's really enabling that to happen now. We have got strong baselines, we have got evidence occurring, and it is really good to see that that is being built into how we do Landcare. Importantly, it's offering us the opportunity for scale and efficiency that we've never had before. You know, the amount of, I don't like cats, right? Does anyone else not like cats in this room? I can imagine most people don't like cats. The Kangaroo Island talk about getting rid of them all, that was amazing. And the ability to use data to demonstrate a proof of concept around that and to make that what if around, what if we could actually get rid of all cats on that island and what that would do to flora and fauna on that island, that's amazing. And so I really think that we're really making progress with that. But what I also thought when I was having that thought at 1 o'clock last night when I couldn't get to sleep because all this was going through my head and I thought, I've got to mention that, was how important the people part still is, because we still need people to verify it and we still need people to filter what the data is saying. So we can't do without that. And so to have that strong technical workforce within our midst is more important now than ever, really.
Yeah. And building on that, without the people, the tech means nothing to country. We need our people to translate tech onto country and speak its language. So everyone in the room, I encourage you so much to embrace tech and be those translators so that we can all be voices for country better.
That's right. And particularly when you're working, and coming from a farming background, working with farmers, they're business owners. They're making business decisions. They're making trade-off decisions every day of the week. Do I put that chemical on that piece of crop? Do I move those stock here? They're making trade-offs and they need that evidence base to impact their decision-making. So it's really important that we can communicate information.
Absolutely. We're running very short on time here, but I want to give a shout out to all the deadly mob in the room, my aunties and uncle on stage earlier, and all the other mob I've seen speak throughout the week. It's been absolutely amazing. I also want to give a shout out to all the allies in the room as well, because nearly all of you are just by sitting here, listening, looking, and learning. right? Walking alongside our First Nations people to not only strengthen their voices, but to forge new futures and identities together. It's what's really important now, where we're at in the social landscape of Australia, is how do we actually forge new futures together? And I'm really proud to say that this room, there's a lot of energy moving in that direction. So shout outs to you all for that.
Absolutely. And look, the comment was made earlier that we're talking to the converted. We are. And I guess as my disruptor for the evening, and Melissa told me I could do this, you know, I think we do have to look at the system that we're dealing with. We've got to get this system right. And I have been writing a few notes down, and this is probably something that, you know, departments can take away, for example, ministers, if they were still in the room. You know, and it goes back to Jayden's point around we need to properly resource what we do. You know, the minister mentioned that we have $300 million of National Heritage Trust climate smart grants going out. How much of that actually goes to Landcare groups? Bugger all. Bugger all, that's right. And it's a complex issue because what's happening is we have less R&D spending. There's more people trying to get the same bucket of funding. And so we do need to look at the system that we're working in. How do we, and the other thing is, Landcare is a ground-up movement. How do we actually keep the funding decisions regionally relevant? How do we keep those decision-making points close to the source? Because that's where you get meaningful spending of money. That's where you get real outcomes. And that's where you get, and this isn't just environmental, it's community as well. So it's about the empowerment of people. And I think if we can work on that, that would be great. Because we need to also have those, going back to Fiona Simpson's comments, those radical collaborations too. The bucket's small. We need to have, and I guess this is for Landcare Australia and others to think about, how do we get the philanthropists in the room? This has been an inspiring event. You know, you cannot go to one of these events, for example, cats. Oh my God. You cannot be not inspired by those sorts of talks, you know. So if we can get them in the room, we can inspire them. And if we can inspire them, we can get real action. So how do we get them in the room? And then maybe next conference we won't have 650 people, we'll have 1,000.
Easy.
Are we over or can we keep going?
Look at that. 12:46. And it says here 12:50.
Oh. Good thing I brought my notepad.
Yeah.
Any questions? Anyone want to pop up anything? You're very welcome to. What were your take-homes? I can go to my book. Any more for you?
I mean, I can sit up here and just yarn all day if we really want to, but...
Take a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Use the space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fill the void.
I want to really highlight the importance of getting our young Indigenous people involved with all of your movements, no matter where you are. Across Australia, our young Indigenous folk, now more than ever, need support. They need help. There are systemic failures in the Australian system. Reach out to them, right? Invite them into your circles. Invite them into your places. If you don't know who the right person to talk to is, as we've heard through some of those yarns this morning, go out and just have some yarns in community. Go out and ask those questions. Our young mob need support. All right, I really want to encourage that and drive that home.
I had a really smart woman once tell me that you need to work at the speed of trust. And I thought that was a fantastic comment. And I was really inspired by the fact that Samantha made the comment that recognising intergenerational knowledge sharing in farming communities was important to her. And, you know, passing on to junior Landcares etc., is really an important thing to do if we can get that intergenerational transfer of knowledge.
Is this one on? Yeah. Preston.
If cats are such a big problem, what other methods can we use to stop them?
Oh, you know what? There's so many options. There used to be a book many years ago about how many 100 ways to kill a cat, but we won't go there today. It was on my dad's shelf. Science is amazing. There are technologies out there now where we can use bioviruses, products, to actually do cat control humanely. When you do these things, there's a bit of an ethical challenge that we have to manage. But it's a big question, and I think it has alignment with brumbies in the highlands and things like that. We do need to make sure that we are humane in the ways that we look at it, but there are ways to actually manage cat populations, which we just have to be brave enough to explore. Great question.
Can you thank Preston for getting up at a big conference in front of 600 people? Thank you, Preston. You can stay there, buddy, and just watch from here.
Very good.
No, stay. Oh yeah.
Oh, what's Preston's what ifs?
Yeah. What would you say to someone saying, "What do you want to see in 2030? What if? What if we could?" Is there anything pressing on your mind?
Yes, actually. I'm thinking about all the plastics, actually. We've all got these one-use plastics and everything. Do we actually need it? Can we live without it? And why won't the big commercial factories embrace change?
Wow. Well, on that note, I think Alison and Lindsay, thank you so much for the effort and time you put into capturing those thoughts from all of you and your presentations, for synthesising it and for lifting us into the final period of the conference this afternoon to the other plenaries. So can I please have a big round of applause for Lindsay and Alison.
And for Preston. Can't forget Preston.
So, Preston, we're going to wrap this up, mate. We're going to wrap this session up. We're actually wrapping the conference up at this point, so I'm going to get you to read a couple of things here if you can see it. Can you say, oh, where's your mic? Here's your mic. Can you say, this brings us to a close. The afternoon has a full program.
This brings us to a close. The afternoon has a full program of concurrent stream speakers that begin in 10 minutes. Nature repair and climate adaptation, room 5. Technology and innovation for Landcare, room 6.
10 minutes after lunch. He's reading what was there, so my apologies.
Community-driven Landcare sponsored by Bupa. Is that how I say it?
Correct.
Room 7. Restoring biodiversity across landscapes, room 8. Sustainable agriculture and soil health sponsored by Rabobank, room 9. Thank you all. Thank you all.
So do the you all a bit bold.
Thank you all today for joining us for the conference session. Thanks today for our incredible speakers today. Thank you to our sponsors, the Australian Government, including the team from DAFF and DCCEEW, and
Better than me.
The Future Drought Fund, the Victorian Government, City of Gold Coast, Queensland Waters and Land Carers.
Good delegation, eh?
Even more. Bupa, Rabobank, Powerlink Queensland, ACM Agri, and the community supporters. Thank you to the National Landcare Conference Steering Committee, who have been working together for over 12 months to create the conference program. Thank you. Landcare Australia board directors who volunteer their time and expertise to support Landcare Australia with their work to support the Landcare movement. Thank you also to the Landcare Australia team who are a committed and passionate group who work hard for land carers. They have been volunteering all week at this event. Also thanks for the volunteers included in the National Awards judging panels and the Program Review Committee. Thank you for everyone for volunteering your time.
And thank you to Preston for doing for co-hosting with me here. I look forward to seeing you this evening. Don't forget to be on time for tonight. It's going to be a great evening, kicking off in around about, it says 6.5 hours, I can't be sure of that. Enjoy your afternoon. We go into the what time do the sessions begin? 2 o'clock? That sounds good. Yeah, 2 o'clock. Enjoy lunch, everyone, and can I have a round of applause for Preston?